In the previous video, I showed you how that Excel, by default, handles cell referencing in formulas in the way that we call relative. So when you copy a formula, it just remembers how many rows and columns it was from the cell that's being referenced, and it just adds that number of columns or adds that number of rows, and it doesn't stay put. In other words, it doesn't focus on just one cell and stay there. Let me illustrate how important it is for you to understand absolute cell referencing. In this example, we have 5 employees, and they all have some base pay, and we want to give them a bonus of $200. That's a pretty simple formula. We'll come right here under total pay in cell C3, and we'll enter a formula that says equals, we want the base pay, plus we want the bonus. So B3 plus E3, and we'll press enter. And we see that this employee of $2,000 gets the $200 bonus, and the total pay is $2,200. We'll take the fill handle and pull it down to give that bonus to all employees. And what we find is that we have a lot of unhappy employees because the first person got the bonus, but nobody else got that bonus. And it's because the person in the payroll department didn't understand the difference between relative cell referencing and absolute cell referencing. I'm going to go into the formula view mode, so formula, and then come over to show formulas, or I could press the Control-tilde key, and we'll just up arrow up here to our first formula, which is at cell C3. And there we see the B3 plus E3, so it found the value of B3 and then found E3. But as we copied the formula down, then the left side of this formula kept looking. Here's B3, and we copied it straight down, and Excel knows that we're only one column to the right of column B, and so it just left it at B. But now we're down one row, so it changed that row value to 4. Then we came down one more. It kept the column of B because we haven't changed columns, but we've incremented the row by 1, so now we're up to row 5. But notice what happens as we come down. Relative cell referencing allows Excel to keep the B4, but it also looks over here to the other side. And up here, when we had E3, then Excel thought, okay, well, I'm in C3, and E3 is 2 columns to the right. So when I copy the formula down, Excel says, okay, I have to go 2 columns to the right, and it finds there nothing at all. That's why it adds 0 to the $2,200. And if I keep going down, you can see that relative cell referencing is at work, and these last employees are not getting the benefit of that bonus. I'm going to go back to the normal view, so I'll press Control-tilde. We'll take out these last formulas here. I'm going to come back up to this first one, and you can see here that the formula equals B3 plus E3. If we want the reference to E3 to stay there and never ever change, then what you can do is simply click here close to the E3. It can either be after the 3 or before the 3 and between the E3, or it could be right here at the start of the E3. It doesn't matter. Look at your insertion point, and it just has to be touching the E or the 3. And then we'll press the F4 key. And what it does, it puts the dollar symbols by the column and by the row. We don't really need it right now by both, but for now we'll just leave it that way. We'll put the $sign by the E, the $sign by the 3. The column and the row are locked in place. And I press enter, and we see that the formula works. 2,000 plus 200, 2,200. We copy it down. And now everybody's happy because the guy that made 2,800 is getting the $200 bonus, and he's getting that total pay of 3,000. So let's go back up to this first cell here. We'll press F2 to go in and enter that. So here we have an absolute cell reference. I want you to think of the dollar signs as a nail, N-A-I-L. Think of the dollar sign as Excel's way of nailing down, first of all, nailing down the column, and then secondly, nailing down the row. When you put the dollar sign in front of the row value, then it's going to always stay on that row. If you know you're going to copy straight down, then you know that the reference of E is never going to change. So you really don't need the dollar sign before the E. We could take that out. But we want it to always stay on 3. And I'll just press Enter. And we can come down and just copy this formula over those others. And we see that, I press F2, you can see that B7 plus E$3, that works. We don't really need the dollar sign in front of the E. It didn't hurt anything to have it there, but there are times where it could hurt to have it there. So what I want you to see here is, and I'll go back up to the first one up here, go into F2 to see the formula. You see the E$3. Well, what we'll do is press the F4 key. Now watch what happens to the dollar symbol and then to the E and the 3. I want to press F4 one time. It moves the dollar sign over to the column. The next time I press it, it goes back to relative. Press it again, it goes to full absolute, which means the dollar sign by the column, the dollar sign by the row. I press it again, and now we're back to just the row being nailed down, but the column is relative. Press it again, we have the $E, and then nothing on the 3. And so this is a 4-way toggle. If you can remember, F4, that's your friend. F4 is your friend key up here that's going to help you with these dollar signs in your relative references. It's a 4-way toggle. F4 is a 4-way toggle. If I press it once, it goes to full absolute. If I press it again, it goes to just the row absolute. Press it again, it goes to just the column absolute. I press it again, it goes right back to relative. So use the dollar sign as a way of nailing down the reference to the cell that you don't want to change. Press Enter, copy your formulas, and then you'll see that the formula works for everybody because you have nailed down that reference. So as I go back and forth now with my formula, you can see that every single time that the formulas stay focused on E3. This is called absolute cell referencing.